Hi everyone. In this episode, we're going to be talking about cookie dough protein bites. These are a great snack prior to or after working out, or they're a great breakfast if you're on the go. So your ingredients are going to be 2 cups of oat flour, a 1/3 cup of protein powder, and you can use whatever protein powder that you would like to. This one generally works better with a flavored protein powder, but if you prefer to not have that, you can add a little bit of sweetener to an unflavored protein powder and you should be fine. A 1/2 cup of nut butter of your choice, melted and slightly cooled, and then maple syrup, vanilla, milk, and chocolate chips. So one of the most expensive things of this recipe is oat flour, but it doesn't have to be. Generally, when you buy oat flour, it costs at least $5 a pound, but if you're just buying oats, they're about $1.67 a pound. So we're going to show you how to make your own oat flour in the blender. So you don't want to put more than about 2 cups in there at the time, and you just turn your blender on high power, and you want it to look like whole wheat flour when you're finished. And the blender is going to act as your grinder. And it's a fairly quick process. Be sure your blender is super dry, especially if you're planning on keeping this flour around for a while, just to keep mold from forming in the flour. You're just going to repeat this process until you have enough for your recipe or for future recipes you're planning on using. You can store this in the freezer if you're planning on using it over a long period of time, if you want to make sure that you're not going to have any issues. So then you're going to place your peanut butter or whatever alternative you're using in the microwave for about 30 seconds to melt it down and make it a little bit thinner. That's going to make this recipe a lot easier to mix. Then you're going to put your oat flour and protein powder into your bowl and mix those well before you add anything else in. That's going to make sure that everything is mixed well in the base of this recipe so that the protein powder is distributed evenly throughout. Then you're going to add your peanut butter, maple syrup, vanilla, and milk into your bowl on top of your oat flour and your protein powder. You want to get it as mixed as much as you can with a rubber spatula, but it gets very thick very quickly. You can also use a Danish whisk like the one that you see on the board. These are used a lot for sourdough bread making, and they're really good for thicker doughs and batters. But what I have found with this is once it gets to be a little bit thicker, I just switch to using gloves and use my hands to mix it up. If it's not sticking together, these are going to be protein bites, so you want them to be able to stick together on its own. You might need to add a little bit extra milk to make sure that it's sticking. Ours is doing just fine, so we don't need to add any extra milk. And you want to mix it together until it's fully combined. Then after that, you're going to use a small scoop and scoop it onto a baking sheet. The scoop is going to make sure that everything is an evenly sized amount. You can also use 2 spoons if you don't have a scoop, so just scoop a little bit on the spoon and use the other spoon to scrape it off. After you get them all scooped out, you're going to roll them between your hands to ensure that they're even. And you're just about done. So your nutrition for 3 bites is going to be about 10 grams of protein, 267 calories, 2 grams of fiber, 10 grams of fat, and 10 grams of sugar. You also want to make sure that you store these in the refrigerator in a zip-top bag, and they'll last about a week. Thank you so much for joining us on Mixing with Merks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.